Hello, everyone. Want to finish up here with the discussion of the assignment. And I want to go back and do a quick, not a review, but I want to discuss something about packages and how important and crucial they are when you're doing your compilation of classes. Now, I'm going to pop this up into a text editor here, and to show you the path, and I'm going to make this a little bit larger. Now, it's important that you understand that all classes, there's a naming convention for Java Server Pages and Servlets. As you remember, you saw that because we have our application as 4368, all applications will have a meta-inf folder, and in there we have our context.xml, and all that will indicate is the context path at the top of your file. You can go back and look at that. The context path is going to be / LIS4368. And the other subdirectory that we have to have for our application is web-inf. And in web-inf, you have your libraries. Remember, we need this for our Java Server Pages tags that we're going to be using. And we have to have that in the web-inf and classes. Now, all of our classes must go inside of the classes subdirectory. And these are really known as packages. And packages are really, once you get a hang of it, they're not terribly difficult at all. The packages, the whole point of having a package is to organize your classes into organize your similar classes into the same package. So if you have something that's specifically dealing with, say, your CRUD application, I named a package here called CRUD. You can name it anything you want to. And in here I have two subdirectories or packages. One is business, where customer.java is, and another one is info. And that is where our servlet is. We actually have two. One is a test servlet. So customer list servlet is there. Now, I want to go back here and show you this customer.java. We haven't compiled it yet. You don't see a class file. But I want you to see the construction of the package. You must have this at the top of your file. Now, the only thing that can be above that are comments. So I have some comments here on how you can compile the classes and what is specific, what commands specifically you need to do, what do you need to do, how you need to CD to the file, how you need to compile it, and both on a Mac and a PC. But you have to have this at the top of the file, and what that indicates is where this class resides. Now remember, all of our classes have to be in the classes subdirectory. Now here we have our first package, CRUD, and then inside of there, business. And you'll see that the naming convention package is CRUD.business. If there was another subdirectory, we would put that here, dot something. So dot another package if we wanted to. But we don't. So it's just CRUD.business. We don't have to do anything else after that. So when we do that, that is how we will compile it, as you'll see in the assignment instructions. Okay, so with that said, remember this. This is the customer.java file. And at the top, it's packaged as the first subdirectory, CRUD.business, is where it resides. Let's go to the servlet. That's in the info package. And I'm going to close out of this. Just wanted you to see that, where it resides. So inside of web-inf are all my classes and packages. All right. We're going to do make this a little bit larger for you. And change the color. And then do an ediff. I'm going to ediff my customer list servlet.java file compared to yours. Okay? And All right. Now, notice you're not seeing any changes yet. But that doesn't matter. I do want to talk about some things. So here I put some notes in here on how you should compile this on a Mac, both on a Mac and a PC. Now it's important that you understand that here we have to get the servlet API.jar file first, find out where that is. It should be in our Tomcat lib directory, and then we're going to use that to compile this servlet, both on a Mac and PC. So that's that. And then if we want to run it, we run it like this, step number 2. All right, a couple things. Notice we have to have the package of where this resides. This file, customerlistservlet.java, resides in the package subnested crud.info. And if we go back out of it, remember we're in classes. All our classes have to be in classes. There's crud and here's info. This is where that particular servlet resides. And we have to put that information at the top of the file. The only thing that can be above that are comments. These lines are for several things. One, to indicate that we're going to be using servlets, and we're going to be doing input and output, I/O. That's why we have the I/O there, and annotations. Now, our annotations, if you remember, line 24 here, now we don't have to have a web.xml file. We could just say, okay, how are we going to call this file? This file can be called at the root of our application, customer list. So I can go here, I'm at the root of our application, and I can call it like this, customer, capital L-I-S-T. Now, I want you to be careful. I'm going to hit the Enter key, and I want you to know right now that it's going to be an error. And the reason there's an error is because we did not compile this. So watch what happens. I'm going to hit the Enter key, and error. Can't find it. Okay, well, let's fix that. Okay? So let's go back here. That is going to be, this is in this annotation here, web servlet, is saying, how do you want to call this? Now, gang, remember, the name of this servlet is not customer list. The actual name of this servlet is this, customer list servlet, when we compile it. But we don't want to use that name. Matter of fact, by the way, not using the name is very good to assist with security issues. You're hiding the actual name of that file. So we're going to call it customer list, but we have to still compile it. Let's go through some issues here of what's going on. Number one, we're going to override the doPost method, and we're also going to override the doGet method at the bottom of this file. Now, what is this for? Well, this is for, if you remember correctly, all you have to do is go to the form, the page itself, customer form. This is what's going to be accessing this servlet. Okay? This is what's going to access this servlet. And you could tell by the form, remember we went through this, the business logic here. When we go through this form, it's saying the ID is going to be add customer underscore form. This is for our client-side validation. The method is going to be post. That's why we're going to override the post method and put what we want in here. This class information is for Bootstrap because that's how we want this to be presented. And the action here, gang, is saying that we're going to use the context path call, wherever that is. That's why we could say directly LIS4368, but if we move this, we want to make sure that we're using the context and the path of that. So no matter where we move this, if we use this call here, it'll still work no matter what. And we're accessing the servlet customer list. So when the user hits the submit button, it's going to process that servlet. All right, let's go back to this code. So what we want to do is we want to override the doPost method, and we're also going to override the doGet method later on. Now, let me show you something else. First, we're going to initialize the variable URL with this particular string. We're going to say, we're just going to initialize it to that, so that if for whatever reason a user, the business logic doesn't flow as it should, we're going to default the user to index.jsp. Next, we're going to initialize a string variable called action. Now, I do want to go back here just for a second and show you where that's coming from. That action parameter is actually a hidden field, and it's a hidden field in our customer form.jsp. It's actually right here. Right here. It's a hidden field. Notice we have a name attribute. It's called action. And the value that we're going to pass is add. Now remember that. So we're passing this form to the servlet customer list. We have a hidden field amongst other fields that we have, right? F name, L name, street, city, state, zip. But we also have a hidden field here called action. And it's going to pass the value add. So remember that as we go through this logic here. Here we have a variable called action. We could call it anything we want, but we're using the request object with the getParameter method, and we're going to capture that input when the user submits it to the customer servlet, customer list servlet. We're going to see if there is an action attribute that was passed. Whatever value was in there, remember it was add, we're going to use it. Now, if the action variable, if that servlet was accessed without the user hitting submit button, it's going to contain a value of null. So we want to make sure that we prevent someone from trying to access a servlet without any data. So if the user accessed that servlet, it's going to have the action attribute is going to be assigned null. And if it is null, then we're going to say, okay, we're going to make, if it is null, we're going to say, we're going to have the join string assigned to that action attribute. I'm sorry, the action variable, which was initialized here. Okay, so action variable contains join, or action variable contains add at this point. And so if it is join, we're going to say the URL is customerform.jsp. So we're going to set, if the action variable contains the string value of join, we're going to send the user back to the customer form. However, if the action variable contains add, as it would if the user did hit the submit button, as I showed you, then what we're going to do is get all of the data from every one of those fields: last name, first name, street, city, state, zip, etc. Then what we're going to do is declare a message string variable. And in that string variable, what we'll do, and let me show this in a better resolution here. There's our classes, CRUD, there's our info, and there's our customer list servlet. And I just want to explain this kind of line by line, just so that you understand what's going on. In that, we already went through the logic here, and if it contains add, in other words, the user clicked the submit button, we're going to capture all the user information. We're going to declare a string variable called message, and then we're going to instantiate a customer object, remember, from our customer class. It's coming from business, from our customer class right here, that we imported right here. So the file customer list servlet, this file that we're working on right now, is in a package. It's actually in a nested package called info. So that's the package, package_crud.info. The customer class is in a package called crud.business. However, the servlet is in a package called crud.info, and there's our customer list servlet. So that way we have to say, hey, here's our package in which this file, customer list servlet.java, resides, but we also want to import the customer class. Why do we want to do that? Because we want to instantiate an object, a customer object, and the variable is an object variable user. When we pass all of these values that the user will enter, first name, last name, street, city, state, zip, each one of these has its own variable. First name, last name, street. So this request.getParameter is the attribute in the form. If the user entered a value, we're going to put whatever value is in there, and even if they didn't enter a value, it will still capture that when the user hits the submit button, and we're going to put them in all these variables. First name, last name, the variable street, the variable city, the variable state, and then what we're going to do is instantiate a customer object. The customer object variable is called user, and we're going to pass all the values that the user entered in this. We're going to make a call to the constructor that accepts arguments. So we're going to pass these arguments to the constructor that has parameters, and I went through that in a previous video. So this is an object variable now that will contain all the values for each one of those properties, first name, last name, etc. Now, when we do that, we're also going to do this. We're going to test to find out if these variables of first name, last name, street, city, state, zip, total sales, etc. actually contain data. So first name is null, or last name is null, or empty. It's either null or empty, doesn't contain any value, or contains an empty string. What we're going to do is say, hey, the message variable that we declared here in line 62, what we're going to do is pass the string value of all text boxes required except notes. And then we're going to assign the URL customer form. So what we're going to do is indicate to the user, hey, you need to enter some data here, and then pass that message back to the user in that form. And so they'll see that. And you'll see how it works here in a minute. However, if it does contain data, what we're going to do is assign an empty string to the message variable and then pass the user to the thanks.jsp file. We have our user object. I'm going to set that attribute, and we have our message variable. So the user is a variable, and message is a variable. And we're going to pass those values to the respective pages, either to the customer form or to the thanks.jsp file. And then we're just going to say, here's our request dispatcher URL, and then forward to the appropriate page. Lastly, all you need to know here is we're overriding the doGet method as well too. And what all that does is saying, okay, if the method is get, we're just going to send them to the doPost method at the top of this file. So regardless of whether they use a get or a post, for our considerations, we're going to use a post method. But even if someone used a get method, what we're going to do is pass them back to the doPost, where we overrode the doPost and did all this processing. However, again, if there was a get method used, we overrode that as well too, and we just send them back to the top of this file to the doPost. Okay, what you have to do is we're going to do that line-by-line comparison now. And I'm going to come back up here, and all you need to do is see, oops, I'm making changes here that I don't want to. And I'm going to go back to the top of this file. And we're at the beginning right now. Hang on. Now we are at the beginning. Okay, so you can see that there's no changes. When I hit N, you could see there's your first modification. That I gave you F name, L name, and the email, and what you have to add to the left side in the pink is street, city, state, zip, and phone. Next, you have to add balance, total sales, and notes. So you can see on the right-hand side what I gave you, and on the left-hand side what you need to add. Next, you could see that we instantiate an object of user, and I have all the correct attributes, as I showed you in the previous file, but you need to add the other ones. I only gave you first name, last name, and email, and what you have to add are the ones on the left. Street, city, state, zip, phone, email, balance, total sales, and notes. Okay? And make sure those are spelled correctly as well too. And I probably should open this file because it's hard. I know it's probably hard for you to see. So I'll go right to that line here so that you can see it. Make it a little bit larger, and the line that you're looking at is right here. That's what you have to create. First name, last name, street, city, state, zip, phone. Okay, just like that. Go to the next difference. Now I gave you, for your testing, first name, last name, email, first name dot is empty, last name dot is empty, but you have to add all the ones to the left, like I have it. So you're not just testing for first name, last name, and email. You have to test for all of those values to make sure they're not empty. From there, everything else is the same. There are no differences. Okay? So one more time, going back up the file. And again, gang, using the difference command is very powerful. There's what you need for the get parameter methods: street, city, state, zip, phone, balance, total sales, notes. Make sure you instantiate an object variable user with these parameters being sent to the constructor, and those parameters are from here. You're capturing the user information from the form. Next, you're making sure that you're testing for data in the variables for first name, last name, street, city, state, zip, phone, email, balance, total sales. Making sure it's neither null nor empty. Okay? Lastly, gang, I'm going to have one more video because this is quite long, and in this video, I'm just going to show you only the compilation. Okay? Be back soon.